Let's start with the Supreme Court, immunity, and Joe Biden. In the 1964 Civil Rights Act, there he goes to the Lyndon Johnson Library. I'm telling you, there's a ton to cover. Ladies and gentlemen, what Biden and Harris are doing in support is exhibit number 1 through 1,000 in their authoritarian, autocratic mentality. They try and camouflage their fascistic Marxism with words like democracy. But it is what it is. Their war on the Supreme Court, the independence of the court, is like nothing we've ever seen, not even from Franklin Roosevelt, who tried to pack the court. Their war on the states, when it comes to the Dobbs decision, they don't believe in federalism, that the state should have a say in what goes on with the citizens in their state, health care in their state, and moral decisions in their state. They want a centralized, all-powerful police state imposing their will only if that will is in line with their ideological agenda. They want to eliminate the filibuster in the Senate. So with a mere majority of 1, they can push through the most radicalized agenda in American history, install it in law, install it in their massive bureaucracy, which makes it virtually impossible to unravel. So there are 3 instances, and just 3, there's many more. The war on the Supreme Court, the war on federalism in the states, and the war on the filibuster. All are there to protect you and me, to prevent authoritarianism. Well, they go around and talk about civil rights. Joe Biden and Kamala Harris oppose civil rights. How? They oppose civil rights because when the Supreme Court ruled that Harvard and a North Carolina university did not have the constitutional right to discriminate in a racist, bigoted way against Asian students during admissions, the court said, you're not free to do that under the Civil Rights Act. Biden condemned the court and Harris condemned the court. Remember that? And so they demand that the court bend to their will. They demand that the states not have a say. They demand that the filibuster rule, that's as old as the United States Senate, be eliminated so by 1 vote they can impose their will. This is the most dangerous, Maduro-like, Castro-like, Mao-like, Putin-like totalitarian mindset that we've ever seen, and it all exists within the Democrat Party and their media. Their Pravda, Al Jazeera media. And I will remind you, America, that it's pretty sickening watching Joe Biden down there at the LBJ Library lecturing us about civil rights and the 1964 Civil Rights Act, when it was his party that filibustered that act, and multiple Southern racist segregationist senators who led the filibuster. The last one to filibuster for 14 hours was Robert Byrd, who would soon become the majority leader of the Senate with a vote of the likes of Joe Biden. And I will remind you that many of those senators who tried to prevent that law, who filibustered it, and not only that, the 1965 Civil Rights Act, which has come to be known as the Voting Rights Act, were close friends of Joe Biden, as he worked with them closely. Stennis, Talmadge, Eastland, Byrd, and others, to prevent little black kids from going to school with little white kids through integration via busing. Kamala Harris should be familiar with this. She claimed that she was one of them and made that point during the debate. But nowhere in the media is this mentioned. Nowhere. And by the way, Lyndon Johnson was one of the biggest racists to ever stand in the United States Senate. I've written about this. And the Democrat Party hates America. He opposed the 1957 Civil Rights Act. He opposed the 1960 Civil Rights Act Eisenhower was pushing. He insisted that Eisenhower take the teeth out of it, or he would filibuster it. Eisenhower was forced to take the teeth out of it. And so Johnson voted for it because he was positioning himself to run for president of the United States. That is the truth. That is what his biographers have said. And when it came to the 1964 Civil Rights Act, the overwhelming vast majority of Republicans in the Senate and the House voted for it. The Democrats barely. And Biden was involved in all of it. Now they want to destroy the court's independence. They talk about Clarence Thomas is unethical. No, he's not. He's not unethical at all. Unethical is somebody who has a conflict of interest, takes money, and basically throws a case. The most unethical member of the Supreme Court is not Clarence Thomas. It's not Sam Alito. It's not even close. It's Sotomayor. And I encourage you to go on the internet and read about her. Read about her book deals. Read about how taxpayer-supported staff were demanding that if she spoke, they had to buy a certain number of her books. She became a multimillionaire through her books, and she heard at least one major case involving her publisher where she should have recused herself, but she did not. She voted to hear the case, even though the case didn't have enough votes to be heard. She voted for the case. Other justices who had the same publisher recused themselves. She did not. And then Biden has the gall to quote Sotomayor in one of the most mindless, hysterical, stupid dissents in Supreme Court history involving immunity. Joe Biden believes that prosecutors should be able to prosecute a president if they believe that the prosecutor has committed a crime. If the president has committed a crime during the course of his presidency. Where they could have grand juries impaneled. Where they can force the president into grand juries because they believe that he may have committed an offense. They can have his vice president. They can have his chief of staff, all of his staffers, even his White House counsel, even his attorney general testify. Obviously, that would cripple the presidency. Cripple it. Which is why nobody's ever tried to do that except Biden, Garland, and their unconstitutional prosecutor Smith. The Supreme Court didn't say that a president has immunity for all purposes. The Supreme Court said the president has immunity for his official acts. It said further that a president is not free to commit criminal acts. That is, if a president commits criminal acts, and that's believed to be the case, then the judiciary, through judicial review, the district courts are free to take a look at it. But they can't conduct these massive investigations with all these witnesses and so forth to make a determination. It is presumed that it's legal unless it's obvious that it's not. Wow. So now we need to amend the Constitution to accommodate what exactly? And then they believe by statute you can limit the terms of a Supreme Court justice, even though the Constitution itself talks about good behavior. You can serve as a federal judge, a justice that is, for as long as you're on the court during good behavior. Now, this has been the case since we've had a Supreme Court and a Constitution. But now, all of a sudden, Biden and Harris, no, we don't have to do that. We can change that by statute. These are the people who are going to defend democracy, attacking it at every turn, attacking the Electoral College. Separation of powers, due process, equal protection, free speech, the Bill of Rights. That's what that is. And for Harris to go on and on about equity. Equity is a complete shredding of the Declaration of Independence and the American experiment. Everybody's to end up in the same place? What the hell is this? I thought the Khmer Rouge were thrown out of power in Cambodia. Talk about weird. Oh, yes, you see, Trump and J.D. Vance are weird. Why? Because Kamala Harris says so, so it's got to be repeated. Have you ever seen something so sick? How the media repeat what the Democrat Party tells them to repeat and vice versa? Have you ever seen anything so pathetic? You want to say weird? Mr. Producer, is there anything weirder than Joe Biden and Kamala Harris? Together they have an IQ of 5. They are weird people. Weird. They laugh weird. They act weird. They say stupid and weird things. Their spouses are weird. That's right, I said it. Weird. Bizarre. Kooks.